But let's go back to the first question, which is, where are you most likely to find a virtuous man or woman? And I can hear Curtis Yarvin in my ear telling me that we just need a monarchy or a Caesar of some
monk
kind.
temple.
Yes. A monk temple,
a monastery.
Look,
yes, a monastery.
Men above time. This is if you want to Google that, go for it. But men above time are people that are separated and distant from the current daily goings-ons, and who can live a life of contemplation and philosophy and politics. And there is some value to that. And when you're distracted with the day-to-day material urges of the world, it's hard to be able to philosophize in such a way that's best for everyone without your own personal stuff getting in the way.
Honestly, I don't think any man can be virtuous by nature. I think we're all corrupt and prone to corruption. We all need to eat. We all need to destroy life to consume it, to survive. Like, that's nastily corrupt from the beginning. That's why they say humans are dirty. Humans are sinful by nature.
Is nature?
Well, it's destructive. It's vile. It's considered evil to the creature being destroyed.
I suppose.
It's terrifying to have to eviscerate an animal and drink its blood to survive. But that's what humans are.
If you're not a predator, it's not terrifying. It's the perfectly most natural.
But we are predators.
No, see, Ian, I think it's because you've been insulated. You live in a bubble.
We all have.
I've been eating the flesh of the animals that I never saw killed.
Exactly. So there's a lot of people who grow up in the countryside who, when they're little kids, their dad hands them a gun and says, point it down, keep your finger off the trigger, and we're going to go hunt some turkeys. And then they watch it happen.
That's by nature. We're hunters, killers,
Yes.
I remember watching this old science video where it was talking about evolution, and it was talking about like plankton and plant cellular life. And then it was like, and then one cell attacked another and it absorbed it. And I was like, and that was the beginning of predation and stuff like that. And I'm just like, it's kind of crazy that there are plants, right? Chilling, minding their own business, just doing their thing. They're like, I'm going to grow right here because this is where I am. And then they grow, and they're like, I get my energy from the carbon from the air and the light from the sun, and I'm just minding my own business, building my own chemical structure. And then along comes some chicken, and the chicken walks up and just goes around, rips it off. That's so violent, and that poor innocent plant. Well, yeah, that's life, right? Are we going to sit here and be like, animals should stop eating plants because plants didn't do anything to anybody? Or are we going to be like, we eat plants and we eat animals?
Right. That is life. So knowing that, then we have to decide who's going to be in charge. Is it going to be a human? Because they're vicious and they're hunters and they're killers and they need to survive. They need to kill to eat. Do you want that person lording over you and your family?
Yes, because they understand how I survive. Thank you very much.
But they don't even know who you are in this country. That's the problem.
This is the problem. I think it was you said the family is communist, right? Or you were quoting somebody?
Yeah, I was quoting Taleb on that.
Right. It's a really great idea to say that at the smallest levels, leftism is perfect. And then as you scale up, it just makes no sense as it gets bigger and bigger. It's idealistic, it's utopian, and it'd be fantastic. But once you have different, cities that have different interests and different needs, there's going to be conflict because people don't want to die. So I'll put it this way. You hear these stories about, a shark attacking a swimmer, and they're usually like either the shark was confused or desperate. There was, we had Daniel Turner here, and he was talking about how the foxes have been going after his chickens. And he was like, normally they won't do it. Now they are. And I'm like, they're getting desperate. The foxes don't want to go near your house. They're scared of your house, but when they have nothing left to lose, they have to do something. Humans have similar situations where our country says we have low food stores, we have low energy, we have low of this material that we need for our people. We're getting desperate. What do? And if they can't get it from anybody else, war breaks out, just like animals fighting.
I agree with that. Resource competition has been a driver of conflict for a long time. But in the United States, the conflict driver is our factions, and our different factions come from our different faculties.
Inside the United States.
Inside the United States, yeah.
Yeah, so ideology is, I think for the most part, unique to humans. Although we have seen tribal warfare among some lower primates, or I mean like higher primates, like
apes.
Yeah, they fought each other, and that
chimpanzees.
Might be a very, very rudimentary ideology, but I don't think comes close to what ideology actually is meant to represent. Humans are literally going to be standing there, and someone's going to be like, "I think Marx was right," and then someone else is going to be like, "You're nuts," and then he's going to pull out, his stone.
But even before we get to competing ideologies, within our own ideological system, there is inherent competition based on the varying faculties of men. And by that I mean each individual man has different capabilities, different interests, different ways that they can get things accomplished in the world. And so therefore they're going to have rooted interests in their faculties. And because we have different IQs and different capabilities, and people are taller and shorter and stronger, or more inclined to economics or real estate or agriculture or whatever, as those people gain power, then their interests become factions, and those factions become competitive within the United States. And that's one of the reasons why Madison wanted us to have such a wide-ranging expanse of a republic, so that there wouldn't be a dominant faction within the United States.
But then Woodrow Wilson basically legalized the faction of Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan, Federal Reserve, military-industrial complex. They built the school system. Like, that's basically a faction.
Don't say the school system. Again, the school system was founded at the time of the founding for the purpose of creating patriotic fervor in the United States.
So wait, you're saying the schools were created to indoctrinate kids?
Yes, in American love of America.
That's right. Pledge of Allegiance.
But from what I've learned, and I've never gone too
and that's
deep,
not. Oh, but Tim, we're friends, so I could say it. But you say that so smugly just to irritate me because you're making a point. It's sarcasm. It's sarcasm. It's sarcasm.
I'm not trying to irritate you. I'm trying to flip the perspective on what it means to do this.
But you're saying like, oh, it's to indoctrinate kids into loving America. I know you're just making a point, but yes. That's exactly the point, and we need that.
In 1903, John D. Rockefeller.
Real quick. The reason I bring this up is that I've been mentioning a lot that principle isn't necessarily the issue. It's often the subject or the specific ideology, and that's why you might see a lot of people who are immediately called hypocrites. If you say the indoctrination in schools is bad, and then you're like, well, the schools are supposed to indoctrinate people, but towards what I want. And then they say, well, the school should indoctrinate people towards what I want.
Correct.
And that's where the clash happens. Indeed. You're both fighting over the ideology.
Cultural crash.
In 1903, Rockefeller founded the General Education Board, which provided major funding for schools across the country. And so basically his faction took the school system
but that's 140 years after, or even more than that, after the establishment of public schools for the purpose of creating patriotic citizens who are familiar with virtues and Republican government.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's more he amalgamated his.
No, he stole it.
His ring when the bell rings, you get up. You have to go to class, or you'll be penalized. Like show up, take the test.
But
on top of the whole moral thing.
That's a good distinction, because I make this argument on Twitter often, and people are like, "No, it was the industrial people, and they wanted to train you to work in factories and whatever." Fine, that may have happened later, but public schools are designed to build patriots that function well in our patriotic system. Period. They wanted social cohesion. Yes.
When the kids are all brought up on this.
This government needs a particular kind of person.
Well, so this is what happens when you have 13 colonies and they don't really agree with each other on a lot other than independence. And they need to, they're saying to themselves, we need to plant a tree whose shade we know we will never sit beneath. Mm-hmm. That is, raise our children to understand the values that we have set forth and why it's a good thing. And everyone growing up should understand what, blood and treasure was sacrificed for this independence.
Oh, man, you mentioned blood and treasure. Holy cow. Abraham Lincoln said that if you violate the law, you disrespect the blood shed by your forefathers.
I don't agree with that. Not all laws are good. Law does not equal virtue.
The Constitution, let's say.
Okay, he didn't say that though, right?
He did. He violated.
He specifically was talking about just law in general and love of country.
He was a lawyer, and he did have to do that. He had to become an autocrat to keep the Union together.
To keep the Union, yeah. But the point is that we here right now are having this conversation because people that came before us sacrificed their lives, their sons, their treasure, their wives, their family, their homes, all of it. And to disrespect the law that they created and the country that they created after that is to disrespect them. And that is what his foundation of political religion was, which was the idea that he had, that he wanted to animate the country with political religion, a love of country, a love of the Constitution, a respect for the people that died for it. Because as time goes on, you forget. He made an address to this thing called the Lyceum. I want to say it was around like 1830 or 1840. And at that time, he identified the fact that it had been sufficient enough time that all of the actual founding fathers were dead. And all of the revolutionaries were dead. And all the guys who lost sons and families and fathers, they were all dead. So by 1840, 1850, nobody remembered the fact that all these people died for what we've got.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.